Stay tuned for today's episode of Breaking the Biz, a captivating podcast where we dive into the world of entertainment by interviewing seasoned professionals who have made their mark in the industry. Gain invaluable insights as they share their personal journeys, offering advice on navigating the dynamic landscape of the entertainment industry. Whether you're an aspiring actor, musician, filmmaker, author, animator, or any creative soul, tune in for expert career guidance, insider tips, and first-hand accounts on breaking into the entertainment industry. Get ready to unlock the secrets behind successful careers and fuel your own passion for the limelight.
Welcome to Breaking the Biz, presented by Yes I Can Unity through Music and Education. I'm your host, William Felber, here to guide you through the fascinating world of the entertainment industry as seen through the eyes of those who shape it. As we prepare to dive into a conversation moderated by co-host Brett Lieberman, we'll explore various perspectives from entertainment industry leaders, innovators, and visionaries. Join us for an episode filled with stories of adaptability, perseverance, and the relentless pursuit of cinematic excellence.
I want to thank everyone for being right on time. Welcome to Breaking the Biz podcast with the Yes I Can crew. We've got a great guest with us. We have Jack Friedman, who is an entrepreneur. He is part of the Universal Gamers Amateur Association. He's also the owner of Study Smart Tutors. Jack is creative driven and an intelligent entrepreneur. As a college student, Jack developed a high vision for helping students to be the first in their families to go to college. He took a risk in starting his own business, and 7+ years later has helped tens, if not hundreds of thousands of students in their success. Jack has an outstanding ability to move his business forward by listening to his customers, employees, and partners. In an industry where vendors are met with suspicion, Jack has earned his place as a trusted insider. He cares about his clients' success and works to solve their pain points. On top of that, you are working on a new venture with a good friend, Mike Packer, who we have a great relationship with and who has been an amazing partner with Yes I Can. So I'm excited to hear a little bit about that as well. We are just starting an entrepreneurial mindset class, and I was explaining to the students, an entrepreneur takes so many risks and challenges, and when there's victories, it's amazing victories, and when things don't work, it's still out of your own pocket, and it's still on you. There's an entrepreneur who comes in and has amazing ideas and is part of an established business and helps grow and create and make change for a business. But an entrepreneur deserves all the utmost respect, and especially one who is stepping into the education realm. So we're very excited to have you tonight, Jack. I just want to give you a warm welcome.
Well, thank you.
So I want to hear kind of your story as far as your career roadmap. What when you were a young individual, what was the dream job for you?
When I was a young individual, I think it was deciding if I was going to be the point guard for the Lakers or the starting pitcher for the Dodgers, or if I was going to be on the PGA Tour. I think those were probably the three jobs.
The
that
top three. Those are the plan A's. What was the plan B, C, and D?
I don't think there was plan B, C, or D specifically, but I always had an interest in business and in entrepreneurship specifically. So I think I always envisioned that I would own a business of some kind, and run a business of my own of some kind. I didn't know, what it was going to be, but not a surprise that to anyone who knew me, that, I found my way into entrepreneurship, certainly.
Talk me through your educational road. Business school. What was it that led you down that path?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I also had a love of animals, and I worked at a local veterinarian's office as a veterinary technician in high school because I thought that was a career I was interested in exploring. And I quickly learned that the best part of that job was I had to vacuum and mop the whole clinic at the end of the day. And one of the best parts of that was I would vacuum the owner's office while he was sitting in there after the clinic had closed and doing paperwork and whatnot. And I realized the most interesting part of the job was I would just ask him questions about the business while I was vacuuming and he was sitting there on his computer. And I would ask him about, hey, how much do you charge to give a dog a bath? Why do you pick that? Why don't you have 10 locations? Why do you have three doctors? Just asking him, peppering him about the business side. And I realized I definitely didn't want to be a vet, but I did enjoy the business part of that. And so I went to college. I grew up in Los Angeles, greater Los Angeles. I went to college at the University of Southern California. Part of the reason I went there is they had a undergraduate business program, and specifically within their business program, they had an entrepreneurship concentration or major or whatever you want to call it. This was before entrepreneurship was cool. So it's cool now, but it really wasn't. And you can tell that when I went there, the entrepreneurship department was in the windowless basement at the bottom of this building, and now they have a brand new building and they're in the penthouse. So you can tell that entrepreneurship has become a lot cooler these last 15 or so years.
I absolutely love that. I mean, obviously, folks have to be extremely proud of USC. Um, when we think of entrepreneurs, we think of the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musk, and definitely a lot cooler now. When you were talking about it, were your folks kind of like obviously an entrepreneur, um, even though entrepreneurs either they sink or they swim. I kind of think of like parents trying to debate the kids away from, oh, so you want to be this artist, you're going to be a struggling artist, how about you try to go into medicine or this or that. When you said I'm going to study to be an entrepreneur, what were your guardians and parents initial reactions?
Tons of support. So one of the things I read actually that I thought was really interesting about successful entrepreneurs, and there's been millions of studies about what makes successful entrepreneurs or what are the commonalities between successful entrepreneurs. And one of the biggest ones they find is that family and friend and peer support is one of the number one success metrics for entrepreneurs, is having people around you who say, you should do this, you can do this, I believe in you, I'll support you. And I had that times 1,000. Um, Both my grandfathers started successful businesses. My father ran a very successful business that my grandfather had started. So entrepreneurship was in our family, was in our blood. And if anything, I think my parents and family would have been disappointed in me if I hadn't gone the entrepreneur route, because they viewed it as, so many people don't have the privilege to take risks. I did have the privilege to take risks. And when you're young and you don't have your own family to support and you can start something and fail and it be okay, that's the best time to start a business. And so I was very glad that I was encouraged to say, hey, if you have this itch, do it now, do it before you have your own family and a job and three kids and a mortgage and all the things that are going to make starting a business really scary. Do it before you have any of those things, so that the worst case, and my parents said this too, is like, worst case, you're going to fail and you'll write a great essay for graduate school, or you'll tell this story really well in a job interview someday. That's the worst that could happen. Go for it.
I love it. And I think there's got to be some major truth to having that support. And what a better time to try to do it, especially before family, and take those risks. And, you're really only affecting yourself. So you graduate. Talk me through what comes next.
Yeah, so I had started the business while I was still a student, and that was the other thing I think about that I learned about entrepreneurship from USC is great entrepreneurs are often thought of as risk takers, but I think the best entrepreneurs are thought of as risk mitigators and are able to take leaps without taking huge risks. And so one of the things that I realized is, hey, if I can start my business while I'm still in school and I can get it going so that when I graduate, it's not nearly as risky, that's something that I would really like to do. And so I was able to do that. My last couple of years of college was slowly building what I was trying to do. I was doing tutoring on the side while starting a tutoring business. I was doing a couple different things in that space trying to figure out exactly what the business was going to be, but I was able to be making a decent amount of money and saving that, and realized, okay, if I can just keep doing this, well, at least I can get an apartment and I can eat, right? And that was my basic go no go decision was, can I afford the basic needs of being a 21-year-old college graduate, of like food and a car and rent. If I can afford those things, then I can pursue this. If I can't afford those things, then maybe this isn't going to be possible.
And one of the things I want to kind of point out, it's talked about with like entrepreneurs, it's things that you're passionate about, things that
Yeah.
obviously you knew how to tutor, you were successful doing that, and kind of that element of helping people. The smart tutor, was that actually like a project in USC?
And it was trying to really figure out uh, what was going to be. One of the best, business advice I've ever heard is, there's riches in the niches, and that means basically, yeah, there's a million people doing tutoring. What are you gonna find that's a little bit unique that maybe other people aren't doing, and you're gonna learn that little unique niche really, really well. And that's what we did. So I was tutoring for the SAT. That was where I learned. I tutored every subject. Realized people paid the most for SAT, so I stopped doing the other things and just did SAT. And then I said, okay, well, there's a million companies doing SAT for wealthy students in wealthy communities. And that's what I was doing too. And I was advertising it, and I was doing all these um, things to try to get students in, the wealthy parts of Los Angeles, because that's what all the other companies were doing. And I realized pretty quickly, well, I don't have the marketing budget. I don't have the name recognition. I don't have a lot of these things that these other companies have. So I got to go places they aren't. And I said, well, they're in the wealthy communities. What about the least wealthy communities? How are those students getting prepared for the SAT? And there was a college access program that was literally next door to my apartment when I was in college, and there were kids in there every day from the local community. They got tutoring, they got field trips, they got summer enrichment, they got all these amazing things. And if they got into USC at the end of the program, they started in sixth grade, and if they got into USC at the end of the program, they got to go for free, which was amazing. But they didn't get any special admission. And I walked into the program director's office one day and I said, what are the things keeping from more of your students getting into USC? And she said, well, the number one thing is the SAT. I said, oh, interesting. And I said, what would you love to accomplish with SAT prep for your kids? She said, well, I give them this book right now, but I'd really love to give them a motivation camp that focused on foundation skill building and strategies. I said, well, that's really weird. I just happen to have this motivational boot camp that focuses on foundation skill building and strategies. Obviously, I didn't actually have that, but I was confident that that was something I could develop for her. And she said, okay, great. Well, come on March 10th. I'll bring you 50 kids. I'll pay you $1,000 for the day. And I was like, done. So I said, do I have to call all the parents? And she said, no, that's on my program. We do that as part of our work. I said, do I have to print any of the books? No, we do that as part of our work. Do I have to rent the classroom? No, we have that. So all the stuff that I was previously thinking I had to do, I realized my customer would do for me. So we do the class, and it goes really well, or well enough. Probably it didn't actually go that well, but I guess I faked it and they liked it. Um, and she said, that was great. By the way, we have 50 more kids next semester who need this same thing. And the semester after that, and the semester after that, and the semester after that. And that was one of the biggest challenges to starting a business in the test prep space, is recurring customers, right? If anybody here likes going to Starbucks, and has ever done the math of how much money they might spend at Starbucks over the course of their life, right? Think about, I go get my $6 whatever, I get it twice a week, I get it for the next 30 years, right? That's why Starbucks loves having me as a customer. If you have Apple products, people who love Apple products, right? They want them to buy the Apple computer and the Apple headphones and the Apple phone and the Apple, right? Similar thing. In what I was doing with SAT prep, either a kid would take the SAT and get a great score and he would never need you again, or he'd get a terrible score and he would blame you. And when his mom was like, why did we pay for tutoring? So I was looking for ways to get a repeat customer. And I realized that by working with community-based organizations and after-school programs, they would pay for it and the kids could get it for free, which was amazing. And then they would have new students all the time. So that was what was a big aha for me to say, wow, this group of students, low income first gen students, are not getting this service at all because their parents can't afford to pay for it. They are enrolled in a program that does have a budget. Awesome. That program will do all the logistics. Awesome. And if I do a good job, I'll get to come back. So that was kind of the main aha at the early part of the business. And that was sorry, Brett, a long answer to that question.
No, I love long answers and I love ones like that because I mean, you really think about it. You found the niche. You all of the things that you're thinking overhead, and it's total that risk mitigation, like you're talking about there, on how to solve all of the issues, all of the concerns, all of the problems, and tapping into community partners. You're going to constantly have clients and you found a need for that service. I absolutely love it. When you were at USC, was there a mentor, or do you still have a mentor that comes to mind that you can throw these ideas, back and forth, and who has just kind of helped you with the longevity of the business?
Yeah, I think in many is the answer over the years, but I think in entrepreneurship, and I advise this with any successful entrepreneur, is the only people who get it are the people who've done it. And if you haven't done it, there's only so much help that you can be. And so if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to start your own business, you've got to find people that are ahead of you on that journey, but they got to be on the same journey, right? Someone who has never done it before, they might have great ideas, but they don't get what you're going to go through. They don't understand the struggle you're going to have, how lonely it's going to be, the pressure you're going to feel. Only people who've done it will get it. And the more of those people you can surround yourself with, the better. And it doesn't matter the industry, right? Someone who owns an auto shop can be a really helpful to someone like me who owns a tutoring business, right? Because we have a lot more in common than we have in different. So I think that's number one. And a professor that I had, who I'm very close with to this day, um, he was a former entrepreneur himself who became a college professor. And so for me working with him and him challenging my ideas and pushing me and asking the right questions from an academic lens, also having done it himself, that was made all the difference for me.
Now, talk me through the scale of the business. Um, when you started out, obviously you need other tutors. You're a one man show. How did you expand? This business.
So poorly in the beginning is the answer. Um, in the beginning, the very beginning of the business, I always referred to everybody, I'd say, we do this and we do that, blah, blah. And I prayed no one ever asked what we meant because we was me, my laptop, and my car. So was hoping that we didn't get too deep into that. But I did what most people do, which is hire your friends. That works out sometimes and not as well other times. I've had both of that, but we hired friends to be tutors. That worked out terribly, as you can guess, college students and whatnot. When I graduated, I hired a buddy of mine from high school, convinced him not to go to medical school and to come work for me instead and do what I was doing in LA and look for similar types of organizations in San Francisco, which he did successfully. And then we got big enough and we hired his mom as our employee number three. So we had me, my high school buddy, and his mom as our team at the beginning, and that's how we kind of grew it. But that iteration of the team lasted a couple of years and hit a ceiling. I think most of us, when we start something new, it's really uncomfortable, and so we're looking for ways to make it comfortable. And hiring your friends and hiring people who are similar to you is a good way to make things seem comfortable. So that's what I did. But unfortunately, when you do that, you limit your experience, your knowledge, your ability to do things because people who are like you, think like you, are from the same places as you, have the same experience as you. And when you start working with people who are really different from you is when really good things start to happen. So it took a couple iterations of building a team to get that idea in my head, and it's still hard. But yeah, we quickly went from 1 to 5 to 10 to we now have, see, we have 45 full time in the US, 20 full time or 21 full time in the Philippines, 7 or 8 full time in Serbia who do our development work, and we have about 700 or 800 tutors. So um, it's taken a long time, and we've gone from a tiny business to one that's not so tiny anymore.
That is the growth in years. Give me the years to where you are now.
Yeah, so I started doing this full time in 2010. So it's now 2024. So we were a full-time team of less than a dozen for almost that entire time. In the last year, our full-time team has doubled from 20 something to 40 something. We've built a whole team in the Philippines this year that went from basically 0 to 20. So we've expanded a lot recently as well. It's one of those kind of walk, 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 sprint, walk, 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 sprint, walk, 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 sprint when it comes to growth, right? And then when you zoom out, it looks like a straight line up, but when you zoom in, that's never the case.
It's I love it. So usually entrepreneurs, they master something. I would say you've figured out how to master this element. Then usually entrepreneurs take on they have that itch to take on a new project, something new. As and I'm imagining that's happened with you as well.
Many, always, 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 always.
Talk me through some other projects, you know, ones that have worked, and if you would be so kind even to share the ones that didn't work.
Yeah, we've got a lot in progress, so I could talk about those in a few minutes. The biggest one that didn't work was the first one we tried, which was very, very early on. We were going to build a SAT app, which this was in like 2008. There was not a lot of SAT apps on the App Store. We thought, oh, the iPhone's getting big. People are going to start studying on their phones. Like this will work. Small problem was I was not at all passionate about building apps. I had no knowledge about building apps, and I had no money to build an app. So that 0 for 3 should have been an indicator of like, this probably is not going to go that well. But I found a partner who said, well, you give me the SAT content, I'll build the app and we'll split the profits. And he had built previously an app for AP chemistry. So I thought, okay, this guy's done this before. He had made some money on AP Chem. And I was like, well, AP Chem, he made a lot of money doing AP Chem. Think about how many students take AP Chemistry versus how many students take the SAT. Like SAT is way bigger. This will be way better. So I'm giving him the stuff. He's building the app. He's doing his thing. We're going back and forth. He calls me one day. He's like, hey, Jack, just want to let you know I'm actually pursuing my art passion for anime, and I'm moving to Japan next week, and I don't want to do this anymore. Hope you have a great time. Bye. No app. Tons of time wasted. Didn't work at the time, right? So it's a perfect example of get involved only when you have passion, knowledge, or money, or some combination thereof, right? Ideally all, but some combination of I'm gonna be able to have some control, right? Because I had an idea, but I didn't have any control over how it was executed. And so as we've gone into new ventures, I mean, we started as an SAT prep business. We now do 50 other different things. Each time we've pivoted, we've tried to keep that lesson in mind. Again, some days better than others. But Brett, our work with Mike is a perfect example of putting, all three of those together to pursue something a little bit unique within the work that we're already doing.
Let's talk about partnering up with Mike. I love Mike. He was my golf partner out on a 1500. He's like, I don't know how to golf them all. Me neither. We can fake it together. We'll just get through the day. At the end, at least we get to drink. Talk me through. He kind of at 1500 was ready to move on. and try something new. Talk me through partnership with Mike and the idea, the concept, and what you guys are working on.
Yeah, so Mike and I had worked together at 1500 as well. We had previously, through a different partnership, worked with him to build some curriculum within our learning management system around music production that we were selling in an after school capacity. And we really wanted to build out. We had built some courses in the arts and media space to sell to schools in both an after school program or within their arts program or within their career and technical ed programs. And we wanted to build further curriculum and offerings and sales in that space, but just we're kind of languishing. We just were struggling to get it right. And Mike had left 1500 and he was telling me about some of the things he wanted to do and he was doing with his consulting business. I said, well, what if we became an investor in your consulting business and partner in your consulting business and we help develop a new product and service line to serve arts and media programming to schools, which will be great because there's a bunch of new arts funding in California. And that's was another impetus of like, we know there's going to be funding and a need for this. Let's do it together. And so Mike and I are working together to build out a three-pronged approach to arts and media programming here for schools. One is curriculum, two is work-based learning opportunities for students, and three is providing schools with teaching artists and instructors to actually instruct in these areas. And we believe that if we can go to schools with that package with really unique content, then we're going to be really successful. And Mike's deep connections in the industry, know-how, are going to allow us to do that much better than we otherwise would have been able to.
I love it. No, I think that's amazing. Talk me through a time where you faced a significant career crossroads and how'd you navigate through the situation?
COVID, I think, would be the biggest challenge. Turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to our business, but it started very badly. So March 2020, everybody remembers. At the time, almost 100% of our business was in-person programming. And of that in-person programming, about 70% of the spring programming was SAT and ACT prep at that time. Well, two things happened on the same day, or actually, well, first day, every single one of our customers closed. So that was bad for us for a couple reasons. One is no more services to be delivered. We had a full schedule. The spring was our busiest season. That schedule just got totally scrapped. So that was problem one. Problem two is all of our customers at our school districts who pay for these services also went home. Guess what they can't do from home? Issue checks from their school district. So future business, future revenue is canceled. Past revenue that you're owed money for, who knows when you're going to get it. And then a couple weeks later, we found out they're getting rid of the SAT. So your customer doesn't even need you anymore. So all three of those things happened at the same time. That was a little stressful, as you can guess. But we quickly pivoted to realizing like our clients have no idea what to do virtually. We don't know what to do virtually either. But if we can learn faster than them, they're going to need to pay us to help them. And so we quickly said, all right, we're training our SAT instructors to teach virtually, and we're going to train them to teach anything that will get the kids to log in, anything engaging, career skills, college readiness, enrichment, social emotional learning, mindfulness. We built out a massive menu of virtual workshop topics, which we resold to our SAT customers. And we said, hey, you signed up for 20 hours of SAT prep. Why don't you do 20 hours of career skills workshops instead? Because you don't need the SAT anymore. And you signed up for it to be in person. We'll do it virtually for you. And we got a lot of clients to say yes. Then we said, hey, does your staff know how to work with students virtually? Well, not really. Great. Let us train you on how to do it. Virtual engagement using tools like Google Classroom. Like these were things that they didn't know how to do at all. And we said, great, pay us. We'll train your staff on how to do it. So we, on the fly, rebuilt the whole business and got back in started growing and realized quickly, like, okay, now that we've got all this virtual stuff going, we're not limited to Los Angeles. We're not limited to San Francisco. We're not limited to the places where we were limited before. And then things started happening, started asking us about other stuff, started building our courses. That's when we started working with Mike to say, hey, this music virtually would be something kids would do. We did a sneaker class that we sold thousands and thousands of. Um, Again, the whole goal is get kids to do something fun and learning online, and that was the goal. So um, we've had to pivot the business many, many times, and that being that probably being the biggest one, just because we were going to go out of business if we didn't. We had a very simple math problem of we need to figure this out before we run out of money. And everyone on the team was very motivated to keep their job. And so amazing how fast you can move when that's the case.
I love how you talk about adaptability and being able to pivot. Um, you are one of those businesses and one of those individuals who obviously COVID was awful for a lot of people and there were a lot of loss but being able to flip it and make it work is very important, I think, for an entrepreneur. But it's a great lesson in life. Um, you're resilient, so you got the resiliency. You communicate, you solve problems. I can see the analysis solution mindset that you have. What would you say are the top 10 skills that are needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
God, I don't know if I can come up with 10, but I would say that resilience is probably number one. And your ego, lack of ego, probably number two in that. And I mean lack of ego in the sense of you might believe your version, your new version of this pen is going to change the world. But when you go out to try to sell it to 10 people, if none of them buy it, you got to be able to say, okay, clearly I was wrong. This pen isn't, I need to change this pen in some other way. Right. And that's, that's the lack of ego. You need to have an ego to say, I believe in myself and I can do it. Right. Self-confidence is different than ego. Right. Ego is maybe sometimes a lack of reality, right? You got to be able to see reality on reality's terms. Um, we used to, one of my old professors, he used to have a saying called "Do not BS thyself." Right? He said you might be able to BS your customers, you might be able to BS your employees for a period of time, but do not BS yourself, especially when the business isn't going well. I think those are a couple. I think the others are curiosity. I think is a huge one. Right? Is just a natural curiosity of how does this work? Why is this working? What's better? That natural curiosity is a huge one. Um, and I think you gotta have a passion around creating, right? Whether that's building something physical, something a service, but just this idea of like, I like the idea of creating something that someone pays money in order to get, and that our solution is worth money, right? And you got to be excited by that. I'm sure there's a million more things that I'll come up with as I'm, lying in bed at 3 in the morning tonight, but I'd say
feel, feel
those are the
free
first
feel
couple.
free to send me that email when it comes.
Yes.
But I think those are, I think that that the constructive criticism is so important, and the letting go of the ego, not BSing thyself. I think that's really um such valuable information. You need to know when something's going to work, and when you're just like you're praying that it's going to and it doesn't, and it's not going to sell. You need to know when to cut your losses. So absolutely important, very important. Talk to me how important networking has been for your success.
Extremely. Like I said, entrepreneurship is really lonely. Um, when you're responsible for other people's paychecks and other people's livelihoods, that's an immense amount of pressure that if you're an entrepreneur, you can't take lightly, right? Once you hire staff members, right, they're putting their family and not fully in your hands, obviously. They're responsible for their own choices, of course. But when you've said to someone, hey, I think we can do X, Y, and Z together, and I want you to be part of our team, and here's what I think we can accomplish, and here's how much money I think you can make, and all whatever that is, right? That person's taking a leap of faith to work with you, especially at the beginning. Um, so that's a lot of pressure. And so having a network, whether that's there's local entrepreneurship clubs, chapters of different entrepreneur organizations, families who have done it, like finding people who've done it, who are doing it is number one. And whether, yeah, it doesn't matter how you find it. Could be at your place of worship. You find some people who are in there's an entrepreneurship, whatever. but your friends who aren't entrepreneurs won't get it. Nobody will, and you'll need people who've done it or who are currently doing it in your circle to lean on. You have to have it. If you don't have it, I don't think you'll make it.
Okay.
And if you don't have it, and if you don't have anyone, I'll be that for you. Um, Everyone here can have my email at the end of the call. If you think you got this journey and you're feeling alone in it, people have been there for me. I'm more than happy to extend that olive branch to anyone else too.
I love it. For someone who is looking, who feels they have the gifts, and sees the world the way you do, um, what is the best way to find, like you found that problem with the SATs, people needing to, and I love how you even were like, all these wealthy people have it here. This is a group that doesn't have it, and you found that niche. Uh, where do you go? I would try to explain to individuals, sometimes it's just taking a business that's just going in one direction, but not going up and solving a problem. I'll use like an Elon Musk with electric cars. Everyone's just so status quo on gas, and let's go this way with electric and change the game. How do you find that special something to become passionate about and, wrap your brain around?
I think look for, I always tell people look for problems in their everyday life and the lives of their friends, their family, when you go out to eat, when you walk to the park. What do you notice that's broken? Ask people what's annoying them, what's a problem, what's, when you go to the coffee place, why do people hate this place? Why do, just like if you have that mindset of I'm always looking for pain points and I'm always looking for solutions, right? Eventually most of the pain points people have or people or things you'll see are not within your realm of expertise or passion, right? So those you're going to file them away and say, okay, that's a problem, but I'm not going to do anything about it, right? But if you see enough of those, you might find one that is within your realm of passion and experience that says, oh, that's a pain point that I think could be pretty interesting, right? And that could be, you know, hey, no one in my neighborhood has a place to, I was working with high school entrepreneurs recently, and there was a girl who built a really successful makeup artistry business in her community, focused on quinceañeras because she said most of the people in their neighborhood didn't know who to go to. They wanted to get their makeup done for their quinceañera and they didn't know where to go. And she was really passionate about makeup, and that's how. And she ultimately wants to start some bigger, bolder idea. But she's starting, and she's 17. She's starting with, "Hey, I do makeup in this community for quinceañeras." Like, perfect, right? Excellent way to start. Not costing her a ton of money. She's making some money. She's building credibility, and she's going to keep looking for the bigger business that she wants to start within the makeup industry. But she's starting small, and I think that's what I always advise people.
It's a great answer and a great, concrete example to wrap your head around. Yeah, I always talk about, these businesses that are coming and just, launching like the Uber and the Lyft and the Uber Eats and, the Grubhub, and all of it is based around people. We have 24 hours in a day. We don't have enough time in our day to conquer everything that we need to conquer. Um, you're working, you drive to go get your food, to come back to get your food, and then you've lost your half hour, your hour, whatever you have. And just the fact of helping someone with time management is it works. Like, in the Uber then just expands to getting your groceries delivered, getting your food delivered, all those things that save just a fraction of your day in time. And it really does show you, we talk about time is money. It really is. Like, any time that you're not conquering your job or doing something productive, you're losing money. So, um, that's one of those examples that I think of, that people can kind of wrap their head around. Is there a mantra, something that you kind of say daily that you take notice of, that you frequently maybe say, maybe it helps with, the keeping positive, growth mindset, or you know, just keeping you balanced and focused?
Not really. I think the mantra to try to live by this isn't as positive. of one is to try to remember that when you're the entrepreneur, you're the leader, you never get to say that's not my fault. And that everything is your fault is not a very good positive mantra, but one that I try to sometimes remember. Everything is your fault, and so it's maybe a little dark, um, but the other one I try to think about as you're growing is what got you here is not going to get you there, right? The things you did to go from 0 to 10 customers are not, if you keep doing those, you're going to have 10 customers. If you want to get to 20 customers, you have to do something new. If you want to get to 40 customers, you're going to have to do something new and different, right? And new means new. So I think that's a more positive one, I guess, to
Okay,
end.
love it. Last question on my end, and then I'll turn it over to the crew here. Um, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would give to your younger self if you could go, you know, back to a young Jack? What would you tell yourself, if anything? I know obviously all lessons are important, failure is important, but would there be a little something that you would tell yourself to change? You know, we always go, if I could go back to school, I would change this, or a different approach, anything.
No, I don't know if I would say that. I think I would tell myself, because I definitely questioned, is it worth it? You know, friends were going to parties late Friday night, and I'm thinking I gotta teach SAT prep in another city at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah, it'll be worth it, right? I think is probably um the mantra, the thing that I would remind us to, like, start early. Don't be afraid to start soon. Don't be afraid to start small. So no, I think that's what I would just reinforce. Kind of, I think that I had the right mindset. I think maybe maybe I was a little afraid to swing fully sooner, but no, I think you know I'm still pretty young. I'm 35, so maybe maybe ask me that again when I'm 60.
Well, even just those examples of, the friends partying and you having to be responsible and go, hey, my morning looks a lot different. You guys have hangovers. I have a job at 8 a.m. It's a big difference. So there's definite sacrifices that you have to take in order to find success. So I love it. Great advice. Are there any questions out of the crew here? The one other thing that I did want to talk about on your bio, it does mention the video game entrepreneur universal gamer amateur association. Talk me through that real quick.
So that entity doesn't even exist anymore. That got
Okay.
renamed, but that's actually how I met Mike. Is we got hired by an entity who wanted to do something in the esports space and the academic side of esports, and that's how we got hired. We got hired to build out some courses and manage that for that company, and that was their initial plan. They then pivoted to doing some other different things in arts and media and careers, and they actually connected with Mike, and that's how we ended up building the course with Mike. So it all worked out.
I love it. All right, crew, don't be shy. This is your chance to talk to someone who's successful, who's put put it all on the line and made it work.
My question is, I really want to write a Halloween thriller.
Love it.
What advice would you give to a screenwriter who wants to write that type of story?
Write every single day.
Thank you. Okay. I actually do that. And it's a Halloween thriller, but not the one you would expect. It's more of a Halloween action story.
I love it. I love
Thanks.
it. I love the idea, and keep going. Keep going, keep going. That is a very, very difficult profession. So you can't be dissuaded by failure. You just got to keep writing.
Good question, Vince. It's interesting, Jack, talking about, e-gaming and being a YouTuber. I remember maybe like 10 years ago, individuals talking about, I want to be a YouTuber or this or that. And me being an educator going like, well, let's find something a little more concrete. And then I see what some of these individuals make on YouTube. And, this was before there were influencers and things of before the Instagram and all this other stuff. But the truth is, like, things evolve, and if you can understand how to use the technology and how to evolve and how to make money off of it, even esports, like, there are people who are playing video games and making a living. And 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh, you're crazy, you think you're going to make a living posting videos on YouTube and playing esports? So there's truth to that. There's lots of value.
Absolutely. And Brett, I got a few things we want to connect with you offline about in the coming weeks. So we'll
Okay.
talk. But please pass along my information to the students. If I can be helpful for any of you, open a door, make a connection, support in any way that I can, I'm more than happy to do it. So don't be shy.
Perfect. I love it. On that note, everyone, go get your dinner. Go have a good rest of your evening. Thank you for spending a little hour with us and educating yourselves.
As we wrap up today's episode, we hope you've been inspired by the conversation you just heard. Before we sign off, it's crucial to acknowledge the role of Yes I Can in making Breaking the Biz a reality. Yes I Can, a transformative program dedicated to empowering young individuals with disabilities through education, advocacy, and mentorship, stands as a beacon of innovation and progress. This podcast is a testament to the program's commitment to fostering talent and providing platforms for meaningful conversations. Through Breaking the Biz, Yes I Can continues its mission of empowering voices, breaking barriers, and shaping a more inclusive and accessible world. Remember, each episode is not just a story shared. It's a step forward in the collective journey of growth, learning, and empowerment championed by Yes I Can. Thank you for joining us on Breaking the Biz. Until we meet again, keep turning dreams into reality and spreading positivity through every action. I'm your host, William Felber. See you next time.